Evening. It being 6 o'clock, I call the February 2021 Town of Clayton Planning Board meeting to order. For roll call, let's see, looks like we are missing one at this point, Mr. Avery. Also, before we get started, I wanted to remind everyone this evening to speak as clearly and loudly as possible into the microphone. I will try to do the same. And I'll also try to remind folks as we go along, just because sometimes it gets harder to hear, and so don't be offended. Item number 2 this evening is adjustments to the agenda. Are there any adjustments needed?
No, ma'am, there are not.
If there are none, we will move on to item number 3, approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes needed? Hearing none, I can entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I've got a motion to approve by Board Member Powers. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Board Member Coates. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda this evening is 4A 2021-13-VAR, the lofts at Wild District variance, and we'll now hear from staff.
Good evening, Chair Merritt, members of the Planning Board. Staff has spoken with the applicant. We would like item A and item B to be pushed to the next Planning Board meeting. Yes.
Thank you, and remind me, do we vote on that? Is that a motion, or are we just?
I would suggest making a motion on it.
Okay, and tell me what the motion would be to?
A motion to continue that hearing until the following planning board meeting. Sure what the date.
Can I just say March 2021, or do I need?
March 2021 meeting would be fine.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Hearing that, do I have a motion to continue 2 of them? So the hearing for 2021-13-VAR, the lofts at Wild District variance, and 2020-173-RZ, the lofts at Wild District rezoning.
Actually, I think the variance will be continued until set by the new Board of Adjustment. The rezoning would be set at your March meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
So we will need 2 separate motions.
Yes, that would be preferable.
Thank you. And that's a new terminology for me, so let me just make sure. The variance will be continued until the next meeting of the Board of Adjustments?
Yes. And I don't think a date's been set for that yet.
Excellent. Okay. Keep me on track up here. So let's backtrack. We will go with, I can entertain a motion to postpone or continue the 2021-13-VAR, the lofts at Wild District variance, to the March 2021 Planning Board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Sorry, Board of Adjustment for the variance.
Oh, I goofed it up. There we go. All right. Would be for the variance to get continued until the next meeting of the Board of Adjustments. After all that, does anyone dare make a motion? Member Bizzle, and do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Board Member Moore. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries. Let's see if I can get this one right. Do I have a motion to postpone 2020-173-RZ, the lofts at Wild District rezoning, to the next Planning Board meeting, March 2021 Planning Board meeting?
So moved.
Was that you, Board Member Moore?
Yes.
Okay. A motion to approve by Board Member Moore. A second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Bizzle. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda this evening is 4C 2020-157-PDD, Riverwood Golf Club, Section 2, Plan Development Rezoning, and we'll now hear from staff.
Good evening, Chair Merritt, members of the Planning Board. Let me introduce myself for the record. My name is Jeff Keynes. I'm one of the land use planners here for the town of Clayton. I'm here tonight to present the staff report for Riverwood Golf Section 2, the rezoning, project 2020-157 PDD. The project entails a rezoning of approximately 5 properties, a couple of which are within the town ETJ and some are within Johnston County's jurisdiction. As I identified here, the RE, which is a town of Clayton zoning, and an AR, which is a Johnston County zoning. The applicant wishes to zone all of those to a PDR, Plan Development Residential. It's currently a vacant piece of property. It's approximate size around plus or minus 300 acres in size. The northern part of the boundary is on Riverwood Drive, and Castleberry bisects probably 2/3 into the project. The project will be on both sides of Castleberry Road, as shown on the aerial photograph here, and the properties, the subject properties are highlighted. As you can see, the southern part's on the Neuse River, and the northern part, again, as I mentioned, is on Riverwood Drive. In my opening statements, I mentioned that the current zoning is split between Johnston County and town of Clayton, the RE sections, and also the AR pieces of property. The proposed zoning, again, would be the entire area shown in green for the PD, Plan Development Residential. In driving through and posting the properties, here's a picture of the site through Castleberry. As it's shown, it is vacant. You can see the vegetation bordering the road, and it is vegetated throughout the entire property. Kind of gives you an idea of what a large piece of property with not much on it right now looks like. Staff took a close analysis of the consistency and compatibility of this project when it relates to the goals of the comprehensive plan. So I didn't list all the goals, I just listed a couple of them. And the staff report identifies all the goals that are applicable to this. So goal 1, exactly, preserve Clayton's small town character. This is, there are large tract lots, there are large open space.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Keynes.
Yes.
We're getting feedback from the folks waiting in the lobby that they can't hear us. So maybe if you could try closer and a little louder.
There's no volume. There's no volume.
There's no volume. My apologies. Okay, let's pause then.
I'll pause, sure.
So much.
For the sake of the members of the audience out there, would you wish me to begin from the beginning of the presentation or pick up where I left off?
Jeff, please start at the beginning once the audio is working.
No problem, thank you.
Chrissy, if you'll have the mics turned up as loud as possible without the screeching sound, and then we'll restart from the beginning. Not the whole meeting, just the case. Can you test it for me?
Testing, testing. I'm going to add it to my checklist to do a sound test for now before we start. Yeah. See, had never been a problem.
Chairwoman Ingrid, we're ready. If you would like to call Jeff up again, and we will restart.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We will start again. The next item on the agenda is 4C 2020-157-PDD, Riverwood Golf Club Section 2 Planned Development Rezoning, and we'll now hear from staff. Again.
Chair Merritt, members of the Planning Board, my name is Jeff Keynes, Land Use Planner of the town of Clayton. I'm here to present the staff report for the Riverwood Golf Section 2 rezoning application, project number 2020-157-PDD. Tonight's request is to rezone approximately 300 acres of vacant property. The current zoning is a combination of ETJ RE residential estate zoning and AR, which is the Johnston County agricultural zoning. The applicant requests the properties to be all zoned into one piece of PDR, which is Planned Development Residential. The location of the site is the northern borders is Riverwood Drive to the north. The southern is the Neuse River, and Castleberry Road bisects the properties on the I guess the first time was a lot better, on the eastern side. Should have taken the first round. Anyway, I apologize for that.
No problem.
As you can see by the aerial map, the properties in questions do have the colored border around it, and so this is what we're looking at for rezoning application for tonight. As I mentioned before at the beginning of my presentation, the current zoning is two different zones, one RE residential estate, which is an ETJ Town and Clayton zoning designation, and the AR agriculture, which is Johnston County. Below is the proposed zoning, which is PDR, Planned Development Residential, which all properties, about 300 acres or so, would be zoned for a residential type development in the future. Here's a view from Castleberry Road showing the site being vacant and vegetation along the border. We did drive around the entire site, and the entire site is vacant. There may be a couple structures on it, but there's no major development within the property boundaries. Staff reviewed the application with the consistency and compatibility based on the comprehensive plan. I identified a couple of the goals, LU1 and H1, identified more in the staff report. I just wanted to touch base with a couple of them to show how the application does meet the goals and consistencies of the zoning, or I'm sorry, the comprehensive plan, either by the large lots identified to preserve Clayton's small town character, or also for encourage a range of housing types. The master plan, which is not going to be voted on tonight, but many of you probably have seen in your packets, does show a range of housing types. So that staff finds that it does meet objective H1 for that. Taking a close look at it, we believe it mirrors, it's kind of a continuation to the property to the north, the Riverwood Golf Section 1, which is on the north side of Riverwood Drive. And although this is a short presentation, staff does recommend approval of the rezoning request. However, before I close the staff's presentation, I would like to state the applicant is here with members of his team. So if there's a question that's specifically towards the application, I may deflect it to Mr. DeYoung, or if it's specific to what the purview of staff's review is, I'd be more than happy to answer that. So with that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions of staff? Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. In the staff report,
Sorry, Mr. Powers, and I'm just going to be that annoying person. Yeah, thank you.
staff report, okay,
Pardon?
can you hear that?
Yes, better, thank you.
You have proposed rezoning and proposed density is consistent with adjacent Riverwood Golf Club 1. One of the main complaints when they had the other meeting with all the residents or adjacent people showing up was saying that Riverwood 1 is all single family. Riverwood 2 is going to be some bigger houses, some single family, some townhomes, and some apartments. And I don't know if this sentence is true because Riverwood 1 is now deemed PDR, but when it was built, I don't think it was PDR because I don't think PDR was around. But everything on Golf Course 1 is single-family houses. Much of what is expected for 2 is not. That goes against what you're saying here. If you understand what I'm saying.
I think I do. I'm going to just briefly touch base on it, but I'm going to let the applicant go into further detail how the density was, because you're talking about density, correct?
I'm talking about the density on Riverwood 1 compared with the density on Riverwood 2. Sorry. The density on Riverwood 1 is all larger lots. The density on Riverwood 2 is not. And it's saying here that it's the same density.
So there's a way to get to the density. The applicant has prepared a presentation that actually I reviewed and does actually touch base on density itself.
Okay.
So I believe it would be best suited to pause that question for the applicant's presentation, because there is a line of density in there.
That's
and they
fine.
can discuss that exact number, what you're talking about
Okay.
in there, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Jeff, can I ask one question first?
Yes, sir.
My understanding is the current density for the zoning is 2 units per acre, right? Approximately.
Approximately, yes.
Is the new zoning going to be? Is that 2.43?
That is what the applicant is proposing if the current master plan, which is being reviewed under a separate body, is going to move forward. It's approximately that, yes.
Can the 2.43 change to be higher once this zoning goes through? And what could the maximum be?
There is some flexibility in that. I don't have a specific number of what it could be, because at this stage of the game, we've only focused on the residential, on the zoning itself. The master plan, which is just a large-scale plan, that is currently still under review and has not received TRC approval. Could that change? Yes, it could change slightly, but from what the final outcome would be, I think there's a certain limitation in which it can change, and I'm going to say it's 10%, if that, but it should not change drastically from what the master plan that the town council would be.
That would be approved by the town council.
That is
during
correct.
Site planning, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it sounds, Board Member Bizzle?
Yes, Jeff, just a couple of things, and
Sorry, Mr. Bizzle, can we bring your microphone in at all? Thank you so much.
you hear it better now?
Let's see. Think so.
Yes, okay. Jeff, just a couple of things that I think will be helpful for the board to hear from staff. Number one, the status of the TIA and what road improvements it is recommending. Number two, if you could summarize what the deviations from the code with the PDR may be. Most planned unit developments basically have some deviation from the code. That's why they do a PDR. Could you summarize what those might be?
I'm gonna let the directors, Samantha Willenweber, address those questions.
Thank you. And Samantha, if you wouldn't mind just reiterating Mr. Bizzle's question. No offense to you, Mr. Bizzle. I just want to make sure that the people outside heard it clearly. Thank you.
Sure. Samantha Woolen-Waver, Planning Director. Mr. Bizzle asked about the clarifications of what the plan development, what it entails, and then regarding the transportation. And I'm actually going to let the project manager speak about the plan development and the deviations or the changes in the zoning, we could say. But the traffic, they have a traffic consultant that is with them tonight. He's an engineer, and that they will speak to all of that. So a lot of these questions do seem to be more geared towards the applicant. So I would request the applicant does have a presentation that we allow the applicant to present after we address the plan development question. Any other question for staff? Because I feel that the applicant's presentation may address some of the questions. And then after that, of course, there's as much time as you all would like for any questions of the applicant or staff further. And then we will move into public comment.
Thank you so much. If it's okay with the board, that sounds good to me to move on to the applicant's presentation, as long as we know, of course, that staff will be available for any other questions that come up. So thank you so much. And at this time, we will go ahead and call upon the applicant. And after, are we sanitizing the podium? I meant to check about that as well.
Yes, after each person leaves the podium, please sanitize it before you leave.
Thank you. And there is a container of wipes up there. Thank you so much. So just for the rest of the hearing, that will apply. I'll try to remind people if necessary, but there are sanitizing wipes up there to be used between each speaker. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Reed Smith, 114 West Main Street. First, would like to thank the town staff and the planning board for hearing us tonight. It is a very unique time, and we appreciate everybody's effort to be creative with continuing to do the business of the town of Clayton. And we understand technical difficulties and whatnot, but we're just grateful to be here and that everybody's working together to continue to do the business of the town of Clayton. We appreciate that. I know there are some questions, and rightfully so. We do have a team here and have tried to anticipate those questions so we could help you have better understanding of what you would be considering here tonight. we will do our best to answer them in the best detail possible. I would like to introduce the team. We will have there is a lot of context to go through. We have specific expert witnesses to talk to, questions you may have on traffic, et cetera, and they will have a time and place. So we'll try to maneuver through that. So be patient with us, as we shuffle people in and out. But just to kind of give you an introduction to our team, my name's Reed Smith. I'm the founder of Riverwood Development, bringing the development tonight. David DeYoung is with us, who is an AICP planner and is our director of development. We also have Travis Fluitt with Kimley Horne, who is our traffic engineer. So any traffic questions, we'll have him come up and speak. Cindy Schwarzkopf with Stewart is our planner, also AICP certified. She'll be doing most of the presenting tonight. Tim Somerville with Stewart is our civil engineer, and Mike Tarrant, who is also here, is here for landscaping. And our attorney, Toby Coleman with Smith Anderson, is here to present as well. Kevin Martin, our environmental consultant, is not here because this is a rezoning hearing, and he would be more suited for findings of fact at council. We do understand this is somewhat of a weird process, and it's hard to do rezoning on not really digging into the site plan and whatnot. So we understand that's a delicate balance, and we're going to try to walk that here with you tonight, considering what is a rezoning, as well as trying to be a good steward of this land and this resource for what we're proposing tonight. So we have a lot to talk about. We'll stay as long as you want answering your questions, but now I'm going to turn it over to Toby Coleman to go through some details on our application.
Thank you.
Good evening, Toby Coleman with Smith Anderson. They're on behalf of the applicant. My address is 150 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh. I think everybody can hear me while I'm talking through my mask. I just want to confirm. All right. So as has been outlined, this is a rezoning from a variety of zones of 301 vacant acres, sort of in between multiple developments on either side, to PDR for a master planned residential community. It's going to have a total of 726 units, which I think goes to your question, with 432 single-family lots, 74 townhomes, and 220 apartments. There's going to be more than 100 acres of open space, which is a lot of how you get to the 2.43 or so units per acre density. When you see this map up here, what you can see is to the left or to the west is the Riverwood Golf Club. Immediate there, sort of right hard to the, sort of right up against the property is the 8th hole. The 9th hole is up top on the north. That density for that property has been, for that development, as has been discussed, is about 2 acres. To the southeast is the Noose Haven subdivision. It's closer to, or it's about 3.27 units per acre. Cindy's going to go over a little bit of that. And so what you've got is sort of an infill development here of property that's got existing stubs on either side, and is currently entitled for about 2 acres, or 2 units per acre. The proposal here with the PDR would have to have a master plan to be approved. As has already been pointed out, the zoning requires a master plan for it to be approved and go forward. The master plan calls for this mix of uses, which would have 2.43 acres, so a slight increase in the density, but the master plan is sensitive to the layout and does have things like townhomes and apartments, which have slightly more, can have slightly more density to the east, while larger single-family home lots are to the west. As staff has noted, this is consistent with the comprehensive plan. You know, this is a case where we do expect you'll hear from some neighbors. We met with neighbors, And there were some concerns expressed by neighbors. And, frankly, we have tried to address the concerns that we can address while still doing the development. There's obviously sometimes neighbors who have concerns about just developing open land around them, and we can't necessarily address that. The comprehensive plan looks at this, and really the goal is to have quality growth that can bring in the people that are coming to Clayton, and that's our goal here, is to have a development that is consistent with what's already on the ground, that provides quality development and provides housing for people at a variety of income levels. We have, as I noted, we have worked with neighbors to address, and we have worked to address concerns that were raised by neighbors. Cindy's going to address some of those, but one of the things I think that was mentioned earlier, there's a question about whether there are any waivers or other requests, modifications as to zoning requirements. Neighbors expressed some concerns, particularly about requests for environmental waivers. Cindy will detail that, but basically in response to the concerns raised by neighbors, we have eliminated all of that. So this is a rezoning with a master plan where we are going by the book. We propose that there are not going to be any waivers. We want to comply with the UDO, and that's what this the development does. We also have, there's been a question about the TIA. Kimberly Horne performed a TIA. It's been reviewed by the town. It's been approved by the DOT congestion management section. And the suggested improvements all will be provided. And with that, I will hand it over to Cindy to go over further details.
Thank you.
All right, just a little bit taller than I am. I have to bring this down a little bit to me. All right, good evening. My name is Cindy Schwarzkopf with Stewart, 223 Southwest Street, Suite 1100 in Raleigh. And I'm here tonight to go through the, if I can get this to scroll through, go through the current proposed zoning and then talk about the different criteria for the rezoning this evening. Staff did a great job detailing the current and proposed zoning, and Toby did as well, so I won't spend any time on this slide, but really want to move forward and start talking about the rezoning approval criteria. Consistency with the adopted plans of the town. This proposed project, proposed rezoning, is consistent with the future land use map. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan 2040 goals and objectives. It's consistent with also the growth plan update. The town of Clayton is going through an update right now to the comp plan, and I've pulled a little bit of the information from the growth plan update that talks about land use and housing, and this proposed zoning fits that exactly. Housing, encourage a variety of housing types with prices ranging from executive housing to townhouses and apartments. That's what this project is proposing. Land use, maintain the small town character while accommodating new opportunities for quality growth and development. Again, this is what we are striving to do with this rezoning. It's consistent with comprehensive plan density guidance. A lot of discussions about density. The comp plan for planned development residential district actually allows densities of up to 7 units an acre. This project is showing 2.43 units per acre. That's less than half of what the comp plan actually allows for a planned development residential district. Suitability of the project for uses permitted in the current versus the proposed district. This existing category for the rezone or for the zoning allows for low-density residential uses and some complementary non-residential uses. The proposed zoning to the PDR provides that opportunity for a master-planned, well-thought-out neighborhood containing a mixture of residential housing types and associated recreational amenities, which again is in accord with the comp plan. And Jeff, in his presentation, talked a little bit about the comp plan goals and objectives that we meet. I wanted to just further detail some of those for the record. The objective LU 1.1, encourage developments which incorporate high-quality design and enhance the quality of life for existing and future residents of the town. LU2, encourage quality development which maximizes existing infrastructure, promotes walking and biking, and enhances travel safety. Strategy, LU2, require vehicle interconnectivity between the existing and future adjacent developments. We're tying in to existing stub streets. We are providing that connectivity. Another strategy, requiring developments to integrate sidewalks internally, provide pedestrian connections. And again, goal H1, encourage a range of housing types and lot sizes that meet the needs of various income levels, family sizes, and ages. Moving on to number 3, whether the proposed changes tends to improve the balance of uses or meet specific demands in the town. Again, rezoning to PDR provides the opportunity for a well-thought-out master plan neighborhood. It does provide a mixture of housing types, associated amenities, buffering, and open space. The master plan is going to show over 100 acres of open space for this project. Rezoning to PDR is in accord with the growth plan update. Again, encouraging a variety of housing types with prices ranging from executive housing to townhomes and apartments. That's in the current growth plan update that is going through the town right now. Rezoning to PDR allows for protection of natural resources, streams, and wetlands. And I do want to note that when the application was first filed for the rezoning as well as for the master plan, we were going to be seeking a waiver of variance for some of the limitations for the resource conservation areas. And listening to the neighbors, we've gone through and we really have finessed our plan. We are no longer asking for any waivers or variances. This project will be in accord with the requirements of the UDC. Next, the capacity of adequate public facilities and services, including schools, roads, recreation facilities, wastewater treatment, water supply, stormwater, is available for the proposed use. The town has water and sewer infrastructure and capacity available through Johnson County. As was mentioned, a TIA was prepared by Kimley Horne and has been approved by NCDOT's Congestion Management Group. All of the required roadway improvements will be constructed and will improve existing levels of service in the area. Recreational facilities are being provided to the residents, and Town of Clayton recreation open space fees and system development fees will be paid for each residential unit. So this will be bringing a great amount of money and tax base into the town. The future Riverwood Golf Section neighborhood will be designed with stormwater control measures for stormwater control and conveyance. And also just talking about schools, I do want to note that Johnson County schools were notified about the rezoning and master plan as part of the TRC process, so they are aware of this. Thanksgiving Elementary School is going to be opening in the fall, and it's going to have available 886 seats. It's just 6 miles from this proposed site. And this school was specifically added to balance utilization in the area. So we want to make sure that that is also in the record and that we are cognizant of schools, and this project was made, the schools were made aware of this project. Going for number 5, it's been determined that legal purposes for which zoning exists are not violated. No legal concerns or issues related to the rezoning have been identified. Number 6, this again, I want to talk about density a little bit. It's been determined that there will be no adverse effect upon adjoining property owners unless such effect can be justified by the overwhelming public good or welfare. Again, the proposed PDR rezoning is a residential to residential zoning. It will have appropriate buffering in accord with the town requirements. And as Toby mentioned during his presentation, the property to the immediate left of our project is golf hole number 8. So there's a significant buffer there. And there to the north, there's golf hole number 9. So that provides a buffer. But in addition to that, this project, when we go through the master plan and go through the minor subdivisions, will show buffers that are in accord with the town's UDC requirements. Again, the comprehensive plan allows up to 7 units per acre in the PDR district. The proposed overall density is 2.43 units per acre, which is consistent with the existing Riverwood Golf Club and other adjacent neighborhoods. The range of density in this area, News Haven is 3.5-ish units per acre. There's a lot of ranges from up to 5.75 units per acre in the immediate vicinity of this project. So 2.43 is very consistent with the area. And the last one, it's been determined that no one property owner or small group of property owners will benefit materially from the change to the detriment of the general public. The property is surrounded entirely by residential development in the Neuse River. The site is already partially zoned planned unit development. The proposed density of the project is consistent with the surrounding density. The project is being annexed into the town of Clayton and will contribute to the town's tax base. And again, the proposed rezoning is consistent with the comp plan, growth plan update, and the future land use map. And with that, I'll conclude the presentation, and we, as a team, are here to answer any questions from the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So are we doing questions now, or did you, it looks like you wanted to speak.
Again, just thank you. That was a lot and went really fast. So if there's anything we can go back, and if we do, Mr. Powers, need to touch on those density things a little bit more and explain kind of our thought process behind that, we'd be happy to do that.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant? Board Member Powers.
I understand what the presentation was, and I understand how your plan goes along with what the town has in their plan. They want mixed use, they want this, they want that. What I was saying was the comparison in the staff report says that the density in Riverwood 1 is the same as the density in Riverwood 2. Riverwood 1 has one thing has septic tanks and wells, I'm assuming, but septic tanks. They have to have larger lots. They have big houses everywhere. You may have some big houses over in 2, and from what I heard, you do. You also have townhouses and apartments. If these two pieces of property are relatively comparable, you can't have apartments in one and townhomes in that one and nothing like that in the other one and say that the density is the same.
Yeah, I can't speak, or I'm sorry, were you finished?
Yeah,
okay. I can't speak for staff. I think I'll speak for our team. I think we would say that the density is relatively consistent. If you look at the way our project, and again, we're getting into master plan now instead of rezoning, but I'd like to answer your question. We have clustered the bigger lots, and there's a buffer that actually runs kind of straight through this property that will be adjacent to the current RGC neighborhood. Yeah. They will have a Class C buffer, then they will have approximately 100 similar lots, and then there will be there's basically an environmental feature that separates the entire neighborhood. Where I'm going with this is when you get to the other side, you then get to another adjacent neighborhood and the consistencies of that neighborhood. And if you look at what's on Castleberry and you get across that buffer, then you start to look at, is this neighborhood consistent with what's next to it? If you look in Newshaven, there are townhomes, there are similar type products, and that's what we're trying to match there, as well as even further south, you have a townhome neighborhood with density upwards of 5.75 units per acre. We were very intentional when we approached this because we knew we would be right here having this discussion, and we did not want to abuse this process. We didn't go back in there and put 2-car garage units and not consistent with what was next door and get 4, 5, 6, 7 units per acre. We said that's not the right thing to do. That's not a responsible use of this acreage. So we went in, we said this is what's consistent on this side of the buffer. It's exactly what's over there. Even though we can, even though the sewer's there, the sewer's committed, it can take it. That's not what's responsible for this development. We're going to put the light houses over there, and we're going to push density next to Newshaven, which is what's consistent there, and this development should overall for this area match its adjacent parcels.
That point that you said I picked up on the previous presentation was that the area closer to the golf course area was going to be the larger single-family houses, and then it was going to change because when you mentioned Newshaven, that's there, but that's not a part of the golf course. Okay, that's fine.
Can I just point out one thing? In Newshaven, though, the interconnectivity, which is said in the comp plan, is a part of this. This is all connected.
Yes. I was just, it was, I think it was just the people on the other side there. And if you were privy to the information that has come in since the meeting, I guess in December.
Yes, sir.
There was some pushback.
Yes, sir.
And that was the main thing I was thinking of. Now, as I said when I started speaking to you a minute ago, I understand what you're saying, that you're meeting the town requirements. The only question I had was the staff report saying that the two pieces of land had the same density, and they can't. Maybe they shouldn't.
Yes, sir.
If the golf course part was built right now, it probably would not look exactly like it looks now. But that was the point I was trying to make on that, and I agree with.
Sorry.
I agree with what you're doing and what you've said, and that part of it sounds good. The thing with the schools that you mentioned, I agree that Johnston County is in charge of where they put schools and when they put schools somewhere. But town of Clayton is in charge of where they approve subdivisions and when they approve subdivisions. I've got a list, starting with the newest expansion at Riverwood off Covered Bridge, steeplechase in 5 or 6 years across the road. Steeplechase is another 600 units. The Ashcroft, this one's 700 units. All these subdivisions right in the same area. Where are these kids going to school? And there's not an answer for that.
So,
And no, I'm not saying that's your problem.
yes, sir.
That's town of Clayton's problem as much as anybody else.
Well, I think.
And there should be something working with the Board of Education.
Yes, sir. I think that is where that ultimately lies, is with the Johnston County Board of Education. And I know the commissioners and the Board of Education are working on additional schools. We brought some literature we'll hand out if you would like. The enrollment in our Johnston County schools statistically is actually down in August, and we'll pass it out. The JOCO reports and the statistics actually showed enrollment was down with the COVID pandemic and the unsureness of schools moving forward. People homeschooling, charter schooling, private schooling. I mean, it is changing, and it's unclear, what that, future is going to look like. But currently the numbers are down. That's before Thanksgiving Elementary in this area opens and takes on more capacity, and the commissioners and school board are discussing more of that public infrastructure. I think that is a given that they are going to need to handle that and are working on it. As Cindy pointed out, they are invited to this process. They are included in this process, and they need to speak to that because I know they're working on it.
I realize that. I also know that when we looked at steeplechase, I don't know, I believe you were involved in
No, sir.
in it. No? Okay. Whoever it is, the end of the project at City Road, Covered Bridge at City Road, the developer offered them land to build an elementary school. They turned it down because they could not build an elementary school and a middle school on the same piece of land, like there is up at Riverwood. I don't know what the town can do or what the board can do, but you say that the enrollment's down. I can understand the enrollment's down right now. I would also say that there's not a school you can go past that does not have trailers outside. And some of those schools are relatively new. So there is a definite need for school buildings. And we're putting, these subdivisions that I've referenced here are putting a couple thousand schools in there, students in there.
One thing I would also note is these units, and I don't mean this to sound sarcastic, but these units don't happen overnight. I mean, they're all phased
yeah.
in. So, I mean, even what we're have in front of you before will take 5 or 10 years to build. So it's not like all the units come at once. And so there is time, like building Thanksgiving and others, to come to be able to handle the growth. All these units don't come at once.
Oh, I realize. And one thing, the explanation and stuff that you gave, it's a lot more difficult to look at a plan in colors, in bubbles, not seeing any lots, this area is where apartments are going to go, this area is where, the stuff that you said just a minute ago where the single family are going to go over toward the golf course there. I couldn't see that.
I think that's what's hard about this process is we're here for more rezoning instead of site plan. So at this point, those things you're requesting are really not appropriate for here. They would be when it goes to council for site plan, but here is more of a high-level rezoning recommendation.
Yeah.
So I think that's why that detail may not be there.
Mr. Smith, I was actually going to just interject that in general because I know that comes up and it is really confusing to understand that we're not here for the site plan tonight, but, just keeping that in mind that it is the rezoning.
Yeah, my first point on the thing here, on my list here was if the development is not approved, do these lots need to be rezoned? And I don't know that anybody's thought of that, but we have to assume that at this point that it's going to be approved.
Or that the council will make that decision.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Because they'll track
but we
together.
have to make the decision on the rezoning, right, or the recommendation right now. And like that. The one other thing that, well, I've got you here, the water and sewer.
Yes, sir.
Is that available in the area there?
That's one thing that is very unique about this project. The water and sewer is already in place. And as we talk about this, and I'll talk about this a little later, there's been a lot of debate in our county about where growth should be. At the county level, at the city level, that's been a debate for the last 2 years. I think most people that are reasonable say, well, we can't kill development. It's obviously got to happen, but what we can do is be good stewards of it, and we can put it in the right places. And I think there are a lot of people who care about farmland. I'm one of them, that we're not just chewing up farmland, but that we should try to cluster development around towns where infrastructure is. This is a unique opportunity where there is public infrastructure in place. It has already been committed to, ironed out. We actually got our letters today. We can hand those out if you would like, that the county has committed, the town has capacity in the county system, and that the town is willing to let us use that capacity system. So the public infrastructure of water sewer is in place. So when we talk about development, and I really appreciate these questions, these are great to help better understand the total process. We obviously knew we would be here answering these questions. This is going to be a development that is developed around it. It is an infill. We have to answer and be good stewards of that development to the people around us. That's why we feel like this is a good development, because it checks all the boxes of what everybody's been talking about for 2 years. The infrastructure's there. We have amenities and open space. There's going to be an amenity, a significant amenity in this neighborhood, which we'll get at a site plan. There's over 100 acres of open space. It is clustered towards the town. It will be in the town city limits, pay taxes and SDFs, not like a Flowers or a 4042 that are close to the town, using town resources but not paying town taxes, and so forth. It is also important to note, if we didn't do this, we would take it to the county. And since we've been in this process, their municipal transition district allows for up to 4 units per acre in their new plan, which we could do. But if we did that, we would end up with the same problems. A neighborhood not close to the town, not paying town taxes, not contributing to the town, but still using town resources, and it would be more dense than 2.43 acres. We came with this development the way we did, knowing that we needed to be responsible with the land that we had, to all the neighbors on all sides and be consistent with each neighbor on each side of this project, knowing that the public infrastructure was there and knowing that we needed to be a good partner with the town of Clayton and participate in the financial success of the town.
Last thing, is the person in charge of the traffic analysis going to speak, or?
Sorry, Mr.
But
Powers.
if the person in charge of the traffic analysis is here, he is. If there's any specific questions, such as please go over the improvements or anything like that, he can go over whatever you guys would like to know on the traffic and what DOT has already approved.
I have a quick question. Yes, sir. It really doesn't apply to the zoning, but it seems to me that many of these complaints and objections has to do with the connectivity between this project and the golf course.
Yes, sir.
Was this your decision, or was it based on the town of Clayton requested connectivity between developments?
So if you will go look on GIS and look at the recorded access points in this neighborhood, they are already recorded today. They were recorded back in 1997. This is the first one you will see is a recorded access from Stewart's Knob from the Noose Haven. This actually is already constructed and crosses the buffer and is paved towards Riverwood Golf Club.
Was that requested by the town of Clayton when y'all went through this process?
Yes, sir. Just one more. This is the connectivity from the golf course off of Riverwood Drive that also heads towards Noose Haven in the connectivity. So after seeing these recorded instruments, this one's back in 1997. This has been a public record the whole time. The town staff, and I believe rightfully so, noticed in their comp plan that the connectivity is important. And I mean, it's not over-connected. We didn't put a lot of connections, but we did do a minimum connectivity that the town requested, and we actually support.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions of the applicant at this time? Mr. Bizzle?
Just, again, thank you for that, Rita. It's cleared up a lot. I guess before the traffic engineer gets here, Cindy, I was just, to answer my first question, I think you just about did it as far as the deviations. It sounds like it'll be residential. What, and I call it underlying zoning, has that been chosen that you'll be adhering to as far as the UDO goes?
Let's get it on.
Thank you. All right, I feel like I have to have my back to you to answer, sorry. Well, it's going to technically be a low density, because anything under 3 units an acre is low density. So that's where we will be at. And then looking at the waivers and variances, as I mentioned earlier, when we first were contemplating this, and it started with the initial drawings, we thought we were going to need a waiver or variance from the resource conservation areas. But as I said, we were able to rework the site so that we are underneath that 5% threshold. So we are staying within all of the bounds of the UDC. We're not having to ask for any variances or waivers for that.
Okay. Thank you.
And our traffic engineer, Travis, is here if y'all have any questions.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
I guess I would like not to go by without him coming and talking. So if there are not any questions, I would like for him to proactively come up and explain some of that so that we don't miss that.
Thank you.
So.
Good evening, Travis Faluit with Kimley Horne & Associates, 421 Fayetteville Street, Suite 600, Raleigh. Are there specific questions or just topics? Do you want me to just explain it generally?
Did we have some specific traffic questions, Mr. Powers, Mr. Bizzle?
Yes, and I guess it might help to clarify that in our packets, we did not get a copy of the TIA. It's been helpful to hear that one has been completed and it's been approved by NCDOT. I guess, and the reason I really would like to get it out is because so many of the neighborhood minutes spoke to the traffic. So I think it'd be really helpful to me and maybe to the board that maybe you just go through what the proposed improvements that will be made or suggested from the TIA and what DOT has actually approved.
Okay, sure. So we did prepare a traffic impact analysis last September. Most of the traffic data, we took a count at the intersection of NC 42 and Castleberry Road from 2018, pre-COVID, and grew that.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm so sorry. You can direct this way because it'll be
Okay.
easier for us
It
to
is.
hear you. I know
Sorry.
it's so awkward, but we'll just, it's okay.
So at that intersection, we took a 2018 count, grew it up to the year 2020. The count at Castleberry and Covered Bridge Road, we did during COVID, but we factored that up by 30%. We compared that to the traffic count pre-COVID at Covered Bridge and Pritchard. And then for the future year conditions, we actually used traffic forecasts from the NCDOT project on 42 and carried those forecasts all the way up Castleberry Road. So very conservative numbers for our future year condition, and then added our traffic for this site on top of that. So this exhibit, I believe, is from, it looks like from our TIA and the NCDOT recommendations. This is from the congestion management report. So we have 3 new access points onto Castleberry Road in addition to the intersection of Stewart's Knob Drive. And the district office actually added improvements on top of this. So we are going to have left turn lanes, both northbound and southbound, at all of those new connections on Castleberry Road, in addition to the intersection of Stewart's Knob. And then we are adding a northbound right turn lane on Castleberry Road onto Covered Bridge Road. So quite a few improvements going on as part of this site. And then we also obviously have the NCDOT improvements that are currently underway at the intersection of 42 and Castleberry. So quite a lot of infrastructure that will be put in place as part of this project.
Thank you very much. Did that answer your questions, Mr. Bizzle and Powers?
Yes, so no improvements by the developer on 42 has been taken care of with the TFE project?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions that we can answer regarding traffic, or that we have regarding traffic? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we can call for public comment. I just wanted to do a little bit of introduction to this so that we can hear everybody in a fair and organized way. What we will do is, I guess by a raise of hands, or I think I can kind of see most of you, but just in case, you can indicate if you want to speak, and then we will call you up to the stand. And when you come up, please come to the microphone, state your name, address, and you're welcome to spell those if you think that it's something that we won't be able to know how to spell, so that way it's accurate for our minutes. All of the comments should be on this agenda item, and they should be directed to us as the board, not members of the audience. And I think that's all I had. So let's see a raise, who would like to speak at this time for public comment? Okay, yes, sir. Oh, and then of course, sanitize the podium when you're done, and I'll try to remind everybody as well.
Good evening. My name's Chris Dederick, D-E-A-D-E-R-I-C-K. I live at 188 Darcy Drive, right off of Castleberry. Thank you all for allowing me to make my comments tonight. I've lived in several different towns in my life, and I think this is the first time I've felt compelled enough to come out and speak to town people. I've heard the property off of Castleberry this evening referred to as vacant several times. I can assure you that it is not. There is a lot of wildlife, a lot of animals that do make their homes there. And as we continue to build, we push these animals out consistently. I've been a resident here in Clayton for only 2 years. I've loved it since the first time I saw Main Street. I brought my family here in hopes to raise them with standards and love, of a small and diverse community that we still try to be. In the 2 years I've been here, I've already seen a lot of this beautiful country disappear and townhomes and developments take its place. I can tell you from experience in the places that I've lived, if we continue to pile house on top of house in every last bit of corner, you will lose the appeal of what people come here for. Many of us chose that part of town because of the level of homes being built. And again, if we continue to flood the Clayton market with apartments and townhomes, it will have a negative impact on our value. I think now is the time for the people of Clayton to ask, who are we inviting here? What kind of town are we trying to be? Eventually, you'll drive us out, the people who can afford to live here, and lower your community standards to those who currently can't. 200 apartments, 400 some odd new homes is sure to bring in at least 200, 300 kids. I can tell you, with 2 kids in this school system, it continues to be a problem. When you have kids learning inside of trailers out behind the actual facility, there's an issue. You can say that it's not your responsibility, sir, but when you continue to bring the homes in, you're bringing the people in, and that's the problem. You talk about quality of growth, but haven't filled the apartments or the homes that you've built. The roads. That turn lane that I just heard someone say is going to be put in is probably going to affect my house. I live right off of that. I can assure you that I don't want that in my backyard. Castleberry and Covered Bridge clearly can't handle the volume that they are at now. What's the plan? If you widen the road, you're displacing more people out of their homes. Who pays for the abuse that will take place on the roads once it begins? It will surely be passed on to taxpayers. Sewers, you say they're already there. I have a septic. Is the plan to bring the sewers all the way up to me? If so, that opens up the floor for more apartments to be built. I lived in Nashville in 2014 and watched this very thing happen. In a matter of 2 or 3 years, it became so overcrowded that I couldn't bear it. Again, now is the time for the town of Clayton to try to distinguish themselves away from towns like Garner, Wendell, or even Cary and Apex, places that have turned into concrete villages. We need to work to preserve this town's beauty and protect as much as we can so that we can maintain the integrity of what we have all come to love. I am all about positive progress and growth, but it should never be at the expense of other people's quality of life, and that is clearly what's happening here. Instant gratification is the enemy of every man and woman. Let's not pretend that this is not a money grab. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments and sanitizing the stand. Pardon? Okay. Let's see, who would like to be next for public comment? You can, oh, sorry.
Clerk is going to call the next person. We're going to go in order that they signed in.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, good.
Just up and down?
Yeah, no, yeah, okay.
Can I take my mask off?
Yes, the speaker can take their mask off. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my name's Todd Everly. I live at 438 Marcellus Way in Clayton. I am a resident of the Riverwood Golf Club. And I'd like to speak in opposition to this development tonight. One thing I want to make sure I get clear, because part of my presentation was about the Unified Code 155.5. Has that been dropped from the application, the waiver from that? Okay, well, this will go quicker, I promise. This is just a quick view of the future land use map published by the town of Clayton. You can see where the development is and how far it is on the outskirts of what is now the town. Much of it is in the county. This is just for physical reference. You can also see the major traffic corridors, and I'll bring that up later. The areas in red, the major roads where the commercial development and the high-density residential is. This is the current zoning map of the town of Clayton. As you can see, the town has grown quickly. I think this original map was, or future growth plan was set to go to 2040. It looks like you hit it a little bit early, or going to hit it just a little bit early. This is a picture of Castleberry Road. One of the things that I'll show later that's in the future use for future use plan for high density residential is major corridors. This is Castleberry Road. I counted the number of entries onto this road from 42 to the top of the development where the last road will go in. And there's 50 driveways and one school entering this road. This is a picture of the south side of that road. This is not a traffic corridor. This is not a major road. This is a secondary road. Increasing traffic on this road will create problems. One thing I would like to say is I did read the traffic study done by the consultant. The DOT took the traffic study by the consultant and basically doubled the length of all of the XL and decel lanes and increased the storage by 2 times for all those XL decel lanes. And that's pretty much all the improvements that are going to be made onto this road is XL and decel lanes, other than what the DOT already had planned. This is straight out of your own code or out of your own plan. High density will be put along major transportation corridors, existing commercial areas, and downtown services. That road did not look like any of this. Medium density, units that are in urban character and closer proximity to commercial services. Again, that did not look like this. Apartments and townhomes did not look like this. This is something that came out of the 150-page document for this meeting, which I can't believe you actually read 150 pages every time you have one of these meetings. But I circled the 2 dwelling per acre. I spent 4 hours on the Johnston County GIS system this weekend. The density of Riverwood Golf is 1.23. 1.23, that's conservative. I left out unbuilt lots that were large. I left out Fred Smith's property, which was very large. I only counted properties that had residents on them and were in the system. Some have been built so fast that they're not in the system yet. There's about 235 homes. The most common lot size there is 0.7 acre. I live on 1.33. There are several lots well over an acre. I don't know why someone didn't do that math. And I'd like to ask the applicant, I'd like to ask the town, why somebody couldn't spend 4 hours doing the math I did. This is what we're going to have. We've got agricultural areas and we've got, I forget what it's called, residential estate. I want to make one thing I think is clear. The applicant is harvesting value from the surrounding neighborhoods. All the surrounding neighborhoods have bigger lot sizes than the proposed development. And there's 20 people outside that believe that this is at our detriment. And it's at the benefit of one applicant, and it's going to hurt all the residents of Riverwood Golf Club. And this is the part we get to skip. In conclusion, I just don't think it fits with the major growth plan or the future growth plan of the town. I don't understand how a secondary road like that can be considered a major corridor. It's on the fringes of the town already. It just doesn't seem to fit. Building that development will be at the detriment of the neighborhoods around it. My kids are both in school in Riverwood, or not in Riverwood, one's at Corneth Holder, one's at Riverwood. They both have trailers at their school. I'm not proud of that. and neither should anybody in this room be. The other thing I have to say is when I was going through the 150-page document, I noticed that there was 11 single-space pages of notes from the December 3rd Zoom meeting. There were a lot of good questions on that Zoom meeting. I've not found one person who was followed up on. I don't know whose responsibility that is. I don't know if that's something you just check a box and you pass it through, but the applicant is here tonight. I'd like evidence of anyone that was contacted. That's all I have.
Thank you for your comments.
My name is Pamela Crow, and I live at News Haven Estates, right off the corner of Stewart's Knob and right behind Castleberry. I also am against the proposed changes. The first person that's...
I'm so sorry. One thing, could you state your address for us for the record? Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
179 Vincent Ridge Lane, Clayton.
Thank you.
The first fellow that spoke in the plaid jacket, I agreed with every single word he said. The second fellow who's just spoken, I so appreciate the math that he has done. That helped me a lot understand really and truly what we're looking at. Just a really quick comment. I live right in the area of where all of this is being proposed. I have not gotten one single letter or email, and I'm on a lot of the addresses for this kind of information. Several people in Riverwood said they got letters, but we did not, and we're right there. I'd like to make that comment. The traffic on Castleberry and Stewart's Knob, I can't believe what is being proposed. I, too, am very concerned about the school and the road issue. What I would like to suggest, I like to keep things super simple and go right, peel the onion down. I would really love to say, please listen to the people. It really will work out better if you give good information to the residents and then listen. Riverwood was, I've been here 20 years. Definitely the farm feel was here when I came. I know this is agricultural and farm county. We've now gone to a golf course community, which is, my word is whoop-de-doo, based on basic from agricultural. Many people live here for the peace and the calm of Johnston County, the peace and the calm part. I was extremely pleased to hear the man say that they wanted to be good stewards of the property. I would put that in front of everybody's faces, good stewards of the property. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
I'm going to go get the rest.
Thank you.
Do we touch this little thing?
I don't know. Do we sanitize that? I don't think so. Thank you, though.
Mr. Allen Stanley.
Thank you for having me tonight. I appreciate you guys having this meeting tonight. My name is Alan Stanley. I live at 627 Riverwood Drive, brand new resident of Riverwood. I'll preface that. I recently bought a lot there, built a new house, and did a lot of research. The very beginning, all I saw was golf course was going to be behind me, to the side of me. Well aware of that, never dreamed in a million years there was going to be a development with apartments, townhomes, and other homes behind me. Never in a million years did I dream that was going to happen. I never would have bought that lot had I known that. On a personal level, I have several concerns with this new neighborhood proposal. The lack of privacy, again, specifically bought that lot because I knew I was going to have privacy in my backyard. Apparently that's going to go away now. Second of all, behind me is a hill with woods. I already have tons of water. I get flooding in my yard, not only from the area in the back of my yard, I also get flooding from the golf course. I can put up with that, but we all know what's going to happen. As soon as there's any development back there, unless there's some kind of major plan, I'm going to have tremendous flooding. Already had to build berms in the backyard to direct the water flow that's already coming through the woods, and it's only going to get worse. So I need that question answered. From a neighborhood standpoint, that was me personally. From a neighborhood standpoint, my new neighbors, I cannot even imagine what they're going to have to put up with. You're going to put a cut-through street onto Riverwood Drive. You already can't drive down that road without having to stop when another car or truck comes by. I don't know if anybody has driven down there personally and tried to navigate that road. Numerous people have almost been hit. I've been there, I think, 5 months. There's probably been 7, 8 mailboxes knocked down. You literally cannot drive down that road without having to almost stop, and you worry about, are you going to hit somebody's mailbox? You have to dodge cars, you have to dodge people walking. My elderly mother lives with me. She's afraid to even go out and walk down the street. She's afraid she's going to get hit by a car. Now again, I live down below the clubhouse, so this is not going to impact me as much as it is my neighbors. I would be shocked if some of my new neighbors that live from the clubhouse to Loop Road don't put their homes on the market and try to sell them with all this increased traffic that we know is going to come from this new neighborhood. I have a huge concern with the traffic. We talk about turn lanes. Turn lanes are great. We all know you pull up in a turn lane, you already can't see around the car beside you. It's hard enough to pull out as it is. I challenge anybody to go up and turn left off of Loop Road towards town on Covered Bridge Road. See how long you sit there. It's a matter of time before there's a humongous wreck there. Now, there may be proposed lights, widening the road, making the road better. I have no idea. All I know is right now, currently, that is the most dangerous place to try to pull out and make a left-hand turn, to come into town and utilize all the wonderful things about the town I just moved into. So I want to know what safeguard implements are being put into place at that intersection, because we know those people. Half of them may go out Castleberry, half of them may go out Loop Road, but we know there's going to be an incredible amount of traffic on Riverwood Drive, Loop Road, and Covered Bridge. On a personal level, I would also like to know what buffer, and we heard talk about a buffer behind my home. I actually am to the side of hole number 8 I'm not that familiar with the golf course, to the side of number 8. Currently, there's nobody behind me. It's just woods. So I've got no buffer. I've got no fairway buffer behind me like some of the other residents have. So I would like to know what buffer is going to be from my lot to the proposed neighborhood. And again, you may have discussed it. We couldn't hear very well outside. So that's a huge concern for me. Not only the water runoff, but what kind of buffer am I going to get? I certainly don't want somebody right on top of me looking down into my house. And with that, I appreciate y'all's time, and please give this the utmost consideration. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your comments. If you wouldn't mind, yeah, just thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you guys hear me with this on?
I can hear you, yes, thank you.
Vincent Montello, 379 Riverwood Drive. If someone would put the map back up, I'll show you exactly where it is. I think it was Cindy who was talking about some buffer I had right behind my house on the 9th hole. I'd really like for someone to point out what they're calling a buffer, because all I see is the 9th green, 1 or 2 trees, and then new crap. So if someone could put that up?
Well, so I think for our COVID protocol that we can't have anyone else approach the podium, but maybe what I can do here is write that down, and then
Okay,
when we
I
do,
live at 379. Now, I have no notes. I'm not here with anything prepared, but everything that's gone on with this process so far has angered me to the core. I moved to Clayton 4 years ago, moved into one of the original homes built by Reed's father in the subdivision that Reed's father built. We all know County Commissioner Smith. Moved here, as one of the earlier speakers said, I moved here for this beautiful town and what I thought was going on here, and the fact that I dreamed always to live in a quiet, tranquil place, especially on a golf course. I moved to the 9th hole. Wasn't a great house, was not in great shape, but it was a location that I felt you could not beat. Now I feel like what's coming is going to make me want to be anywhere else. I am embarrassed for this entire process, not really for me. I'm so proud of Clayton. I am a booster of Clayton. Everywhere I go, I talk about what a great town I moved to. I've lived in 5 states. I've lived all over the country. I've traveled the world, and I talk about Clayton everywhere I go, and I tell them how amazing it is. And then this process starts where a man who grew up, basically my house was part of his backyard growing up before there was a golf course. And his father lives there in the golf course, which is one of the reasons I said, oh, he'll never screw this up. He lives here.
What I do want to make sure that we do is we're respectful and we address
I think I'm being respectful.
the rezoning. So just if you'll direct your comments this way, and as long as they're not personal attacks on anyone.
Okay, no, I wouldn't attack anything. I think what they built there is great. I just think what's coming is going to destroy what is there. We have wide open, no people. The reason I bought my house was, again, location, no people around me, and quiet. I loved sitting out on the porch. And then I realized there was a problem. Before this ever came up, I realized, we have a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit that no one honors, especially the people coming to play golf. So we've got people running through our neighborhood, hundreds of them a day, at 40 miles an hour. We got kids running out there playing. Nobody seems to want to do anything about it. Apparently, they've had discussions in the past about speed bumps. Nobody wants to pay to put them in. Something needs to be done, and that's before these 722 new homes, which I think the average is 1.8 drivers per family in North Carolina. So what does that give us? 1,200 new cars potentially coming in and out twice a day just to go to work, not even to play. 1,200 new cars coming out onto Riverwood Drive. Does anybody else realize how insane that is? I mean, that is like, people should be locked up for thinking that's okay. That is the big problem for me. It's the safety for the children in the neighborhood, and I don't even have kids, but we love the kids in the neighborhood. There are people, I hope Mr. Smith understands this, there are people already putting their houses on the market. There is going to be an exodus from this neighborhood, because I don't know what studies they've done or what they've figured out or committees they've formed, but I want someone to show me any golf course neighborhood that put in 200 apartments and property values didn't go down. I want to see one time that that didn't happen. You will not be able to find that. This will destroy our neighborhood. Now, I know this isn't all about Riverwood. This is also about the people on the other side. This is not going to help them at all. We were told in the beginning this road had to go through. This was in the plans from 1997. Well, so were 9 more golf holes, but I don't think those are coming, are they? Just because something was in the map for 20 years doesn't mean it has to come. The town has changed in 20 years. A road coming through Riverwood right now, making us a convenient backdoor to work for those 700 new people that are moving in, that's not helping us at all. That's destroying what this man's father built. And other than that, there was talk about property values going up. We know that that's not going to happen for us. Someone had also mentioned, I don't know if anybody has a record of this or if someone can yell it out, someone had discussed the level of homes going on the golf course being executive, I think they were called. I'd like to know what price range we're talking about on the executive homes. Because when we were on the call back in December, we were told they were starting at $350. And I want to know, what is this, an Arby's executive? What kind of executive lives in a $350,000 house? The houses currently being built in Riverwood are starting at like $450, $500. $350 is a downgrade for our neighborhood. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you for your comments.
You dropped it.
Oh, you dropped something?
Note, I think.
Yeah, right over on the side.
So, it looks like it.
And are you able to sanitize the podium while you're there?
Sorry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That means anything. It's all good.
Good evening. My name is Dawn Wilkins. I live at 573 Castleberry Road in Clayton. I came here trying to get information. I learned quite a bit. And one thing that I didn't understand until I got here, I think I've figured it out now, the reason that we need to rezone to match the city of Clayton. And that, I think, is so that you have a different level of residential housing that you're looking at. The areas where we live are all larger lots. Some houses are not so large, but they are an acre typically on that road. We have had a number of issues on that road. We've had severe accidents. We've had people hitting deer. The road itself has had trouble being a 55-mile-an-hour back road. This is something that I've tried to address a number of times with the DOT. They have said it is perfectly fine the way it is. I don't expect anything different if this development goes through. One of the other things that were said is the development of single-family homes, apartments, and townhouses is that this piece of property butts up against similar housing. That is quite away from us, these townhouses. There is a small tract not far from my home that maybe has 20 single-family townhouses. That is not causing a major traffic issue. On top of that, the schools, fortunately, my children are grown, but in the time that they were in school, they were going to school in trailers. And I found it very interesting that somebody mentioned a new school is already being built in anticipation of this, but my understanding is that this development has not yet been approved. So I don't really understand how that, if there is something here that you guys are listening to residents and other people concerned about the problem, I don't understand how that's already in place. And I did have one other thing, wastewater. We do have a lot of water on that road. I live probably a half a mile from the corner of 42 where the Neuse River is. There is a wastewater treatment plant. They have recently done some clearing and the building of the new bridge, and we are getting a regular rank smell from wastewater. I can't imagine that getting better with additional houses there. So I hope that you guys truly consider, if this is not a stamp done deal, that we actually talk about how we can make this work and beneficial to the people that already live there. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Would you mind sanitizing the stand? I know it's such a hassle. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rebecca Evans. I live at 1144 Castleberry Road. And there are a couple of things that I'd like to mention to you all this evening. First, I'd like to start with, I have lived my entire life around this project. My family moved to Castleberry Road when I was 11 years old. I worked at Riverwood Golf Course as a teenager. My husband and I got married and felt that God led us back to Castleberry Road. We love our home. The proposed project is right next to our home. And the project that is proposed will destroy everything we love about the home that we bought and the town that we chose to move back to. We love this town. We love Clayton. I went to Riverwood Middle School. I graduated from Corinth Holders High School. As many others have mentioned, I went to school in trailers because we just can't handle the population that is growing in this town. And unfortunately, from what I've heard tonight, it appears that a lot of minds are already made up about this project. And that's really disappointing because as a homeowner, I was not even notified about this project, and I live next to it. Is right next to my house. And another person that's here this evening pulled into my driveway less than a week ago and said, "Are you aware of this meeting?" I didn't get a letter. I didn't get notified of this project at all. Nobody did their due diligence to make sure that I was aware that somebody was going to be building 700 homes in this beautiful natural area that was the reason that I bought my house. In addition to that, the woman that just spoke is my mother. She talked about speed limits. She talked about the different things that she has struggled with being a parent on Castleberry Road. I moved to Castleberry Road because I want to raise a family here. And unfortunately, I'm still, 15 years later, dealing with the struggles that my parents were dealing with 15 years ago with the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit when I had to walk across the street to get on the bus and was almost hit by cars countless times. Now, coming home from work, I mean, there's no lighting on the road. It's just not safe. And I'm not sure that the staff here is aware, but in the last 4 months, there have been, in the stretch of land that is proposed for this project, there have been at least 6 times that deer have been hit by cars and left on the side of the road, and that's deadly. Those are things that risk not only the wildlife, but also your citizens that you guys are here to protect and care for. And there have been a couple times tonight where the developers have mentioned that we're here to talk about zoning, and I do understand that. But I urge you to consider the fact that to make an informed decision about the zoning of this project, you really need to have an idea of the full scale of this project and what it's going to do to our community. Because once the zone is changed, I mean, unfortunately, it gives the developers pretty much free rein to do what they want on that land. And that's something that I really hope that you consider before you make this decision. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Would you mind sanitizing the stand? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here.
That was all that had signed up to speak.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's see. Okay, at this point, I can turn it over to the board for their consideration. Are there any comments from the board at this time? Oh, Reed, sorry, go ahead.
I think there's another public comment.
Oh, there's more public comment. Okay, I apologize.
I'm Wade Holloway. I live at 8404 Crowder Road in Raleigh. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I've stood here, I sat over here and listened to quite a bit of negative about the piece of property. So I'd just like to say a little bit about it, and I think it'll help the applicant. We've been trying to sell this piece of property. A lot of you have seen me in here before. Since 2004. We've had several people interested in it, but they weren't able to get things to work. The applicant that's got it right now, they are the ones that can make this thing work, because they are, our property is the piece of property on the north side, and they're on, all of their property is on the west, south, and some on the north, and in front of us on the east side. They've got the infrastructure on their property that they can already in place, and all they've got to do is just tie everything together and make it work. And really, they're the only ones that can make it work. I've heard someone spoke about the deer and the rabbits and the coyotes and all those not having a place to live. Well, they'll find a place. It's a nice farm out there, but it's not doing me and my two brothers any good, because we're not planning on, farming it. Only thing we're doing right now is trying to keep the hay cut on it and selling it. Some of them said that the lots in the original Riverwood golf course was large lots. Well, yeah, they were large lots back in the 80s or whenever the development was started, because they didn't have any county or town sewer out there, or water. So you had to have a large lot in order to have a well and a sewer septic system. But this land we're talking about now there is going to be sewer furnished to it by the county. Now, I don't know how that ties in with the town, but the county and the town are working can get the sewer out there. They're not talking about putting in septic tanks. The county water's got a 12-inch line already going by the property, our property, It's been out there for several years. Someone said that they weren't notified about this meeting. Well, if they just ride down the road, I noticed 3 signs out there that says public hearing, February 22nd, 2021, in this building. There's one on the, let's see, it'd be on the west side of Castleberry, or the east side of Castleberry, and there's one on the west side in the home place yard that says there's a hearing here tonight. I mean, I wouldn't have got, if I'm living in Raleigh, I got a letter, or my brother got one and brought it to me. If I'd have hadn't have got a letter, I wouldn't have known it unless I go by the farm out there and look and see the signs in the road, which I did, beside the road. By putting, by connecting these pieces of property together like Reed and Jewel are trying to do. Right now, if someone lives at the butt end down next to the river of Riverwood Drive, and if they had a kid going to East Clayton Elementary School down at the river on 42, in order for them to get to that school, they've got to go at least a mile out Riverwood, go down Loop Road over the covered bridge, go up and come down Castleberry, which is probably 7 or 8 miles in that direction. But by developing this land and tying the Riverwood golf course or Riverwood Drive through the property that they're trying to develop over to Castleberry Road, it's about a mile through there, and then another mile to the school and the shopping center down there on 42. It put them about 4 or 5 miles closer to the school without having to go all the way around. And it said something about the amount of traffic on Riverwood. Sure, there's probably going to be some more traffic on it, but there's going to be some cutting through Castleberry, coming through the new property to get over to Castleberry, which is going to take some of that load off of Riverwood Drive going out to Loop Road. And so I'm here tonight, wasn't even planning to speak, just come to kind of see what's happening. And I'm asking the planning board here, Clayton Planning Board, to consider helping make this thing work for the applicant. They'll fix a nice looking development out of it and make it work, and it'll be an asset to the community. And so I'm asking you to work with them, and let's see if we can't get this thing to go. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other public comments on this matter? Mr. Smith?
Whew, that was a lot. I tried to take notes as best I could, so I'll do my best. We'll stay here as long as y'all want, so any questions y'all have on follow-up, please let us know. We're here to make sure y'all have a clear understanding. First, I think a lot of the questions as it pertains to traffic and those type things, our TIA guys hears and can answer questions, but a lot of those concerns are, I don't feel like they saw the improvements that are going to be required. In fact, one of the gentlemen asked, who's going to pay for that? Well, obviously we will. It's on the developer to pay for those traffic improvements. There are significant improvements, turn lanes. I mean, so to say traffic today is not equipped for this, well, that's why we do a TIA, and that's why we work with DOT to make improvements. So I think that there's got to be some vision with this infrastructure that comes with infrastructure that will be made around it at the developer's expense. to responsibly develop this neighborhood. If there are any further specifics on that, Travis can come up and again discuss that if that's still unclear. As is the planning and the density questions that have been brought. Cindy, who is certified to speak on this matter as an ACIP certified planner, has given you the density counts. Your staff concludes that the density is consistent and that this development structure is consistent with what we were asking for, as well as our expert witness. So we feel like we've addressed those questions. If there's anything that is outstanding, in the interest of time, we would just, if you ask us, we'll continue to dive into it. A lot of, this is kind of, we knew it would go in a lot of different directions. I just would like to reiterate, this is a rezoning hearing, and I think you've mentioned that. We will do this again at council, and that will go with the site plan, where we will get into more specific things in a quasi-judicial process where we would answer other questions that were asked here tonight. When we get into stormwater and buffering and things of that nature, that is premature at this point in the process. I know that's been allowed. We don't mind it, but we would request that a lot of those questions we would handle at the town council, because that's where that is appropriate to answer. So I guess in closing, and like Mr. Holloway, I didn't plan on saying this, but it got a little personal, so I guess I'll get a little personal. Some of you may know that, I grew up on this tract of land. When they brought me home from Rex Hospital, I went to that house on top of the hill, and I've been there for 36 years. We watched that development be developed, and as many people testified, I think we did an okay job with it. Was it perfect? No, but I think we did enough for them to come fight for it. I can tell you, watching that, there were many meetings like this leading up to that development that, yes, the current residents always don't want additional, I'm sorry, I don't know what.
Sorry, you may just want to push it away from you, actually, a little. There you go.
The current residents always, want to get across the boat and then pull up the plank so nobody else can get on the boat. I've watched that my whole life over there in Riverwood Golf Course. If everything was denied, they wouldn't be here tonight living in great houses to testify. We have taken this as a huge burden with this development, not to come in here and cram down density, not to pad our pockets or whatever they want to say. We put significant thought in here to this development so that the next group of people that come and testify before the board can say the same things that the people are today, that they love the development and that it is a quality place to live. And I've been there from the beginning, and I've seen that. If the people who were against it in the beginning would have won, these people wouldn't be here. So I think our family developed a neighborhood, obviously, that is worth fighting for, and I believe with our vision and the development patterns we're proposing, which again will be seen at site plan in front of council with the amount of open space amenities, it is ridiculously consistent with what they have in the golf course and in News Haven, and we've put a lot of thought and energy and effort into that. So I would just give you that in closing of just consider the quality of this development, and I know we're not at site plan stage, so it's weird to say that, but as you are considering that with rezoning, that is consistent, and we've met all the criteria, and if you feel like we haven't, our experts can, again, if there's something that's unclear, please let us know. We'll be happy to explain it.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments, any more public comments or applicant at this time? Okay, thank you. At this point, I can turn it over to the board for their consideration. Are there any comments from the board?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a comment. First of all, I'd like to appreciate and thank every citizen that showed up tonight. And I want to say that the planning board only makes recommendations. The town council is the one that makes the final decision. In my opinion, most of the comments that were made are not going to be happy with this property being developed 2 per acre, much less 2.4. I think it's still got a problem of traffic and everything else. And I sympathize with the people that live on Riverwood, you know, and maybe that can be worked out later with at the time with town council on site plan and everything. But in my opinion, this is a good project. That's my comments.
Thank you, sir. Other comments from the board? Board Member Bizzle?
I'd like to kind of reiterate what Mr. Coates said.
Pick on you one more time. I know, it's not just you. I'm sorry, folks, I'm not picking on him. That microphone in particular is tricky, but we want to hear you.
It's like that for a reason, probably. So. No, I just wanted to reiterate what Mr. Coates said. Overall, I do think it is a great project. There were three things that I think I had concerns about coming in tonight. I think my questions and concerns have been addressed. Some of those, basically those three, were the density. You know, if you look around and you look at most planned developments, it is hard to find in the Triangle area one that comes in at 2.42 units per acre. That is extremely low. So I would say that to the neighbors who are visibly upset about this, 2.42, it could be tremendously higher. Well within their right to ask for that. So I would say the density is very comparable to the adjacent properties. The TIA, yes, I would have loved to have a copy of it, but my concerns were addressed tonight with the presentation by Kimley Horne. It's good to see the improvements that are going to be made, and it's good to hear that NCDOT has actually already reviewed and approved that. That's commendable for the team to have that level of information at this point. So, and then Riverwood Drive, I know I golf there a lot, and it is a busy street. I was a little concerned about that, but today I did look up, and it is on the NCDOT maintenance system. So it is an NCDOT street. I feel better about the traffic, that if you know, things get to a point where this traffic is having an adverse effect, NCDOT has the opportunity to do something about it, whether it be widening, what have you. I don't know what that might be, but I think that versus it maybe pouring out to a Riverwood Drive that is a privately maintained street is a completely different story. So, like I said, I reiterate Mr. Coates' comments and say this is a good project.
Thank you for your comments. Other comments from the board? Board Member Lipscomb.
I agree with both of the comments from Mr. Bizzle and Mr. Coates.
I have to pick on you too. I'm so sorry. These microphones in the back.
It's on.
Okay, maybe a little closer.
Hello?
Oh, maybe it's not on. Okay, well, you know what? You'll just have to project, I guess.
Can you hear me now?
No, that's a good point. Okay.
Hello?
I'm making a note here to get those looked at. I don't know if there's anything we can do about it right this.
The green light's on. Hello? You got me now.
There we go. Thank you.
I agree with Board Member Coates and Bizzle, and I really think that we ought to keep into consideration, and it really confused me tonight because we had so much stuff that was kind of specific to the proposed use when we're just supposed to be looking at, you know, rezoning, and I truly believe that if you look at just a rezoning part, that this property, you know, should be rezoned PDR. And then it's going to be up to the council to look at the specifics of the actual subdivision request to see if they're you know, approvable or not, or if they negotiate. So I completely support the request to rezone to PDR.
Thank you for your comments. Other comments from the board? Okay, I had a few of my own. when I look at this project, I see it as an infill. I see it as an area that's perfect for the proposed use. And as for traffic, just because I know that comes up a lot, I know that it's so hard for people living out there. I mean, I deal with traffic where I live as well. But, you know, the more I've gotten to do this job, the more I've realized that we do have processes in place for that. And so that is something that the staff is following up on. That is something that at the state level, the DOT weighs in on. And so I'm comfortable that, you know, whatever gets developed there will be addressed properly with traffic. The current zoning for that parcel would already allow for development. And so, you know, again, a lot of the comments that we heard from the public, some of those things would be an issue regardless of what got developed on this property. So I really empathize with a lot of the concerns that they brought, and I'm glad that people did show up and took an interest in this. But again, I feel like a lot of those things would happen no matter what was allowed to be developed on this property. And that was everything. And then other things that the rest of you said, I also agreed with. So thank you. Any other comments from the board at this time? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to either recommend or not recommend rezoning 2020-157-PDD to the town council.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval to the town council. There are no conditions in the report, but I recommend that approval to the town council.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Powers. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Again, Madam Chairman, I would encourage all the individuals that spoke to continue to, you know, come and talk to the town council about the same issues. Thank you.
Point. Thank you, Mr. Coates. Next item on the agenda this evening is 4D, 2021-03-RZ, Blacktip Properties LLC, and we'll now hear from staff.
Thank you, Wade.
Good evening, Samantha Woolen-Waver, Planning Director. This is the Blacktips Property LLC rezoning. It is project number 2021-03-RZ. The request is to rezone 2.053 acres from RE to light industrial, and this property is located along Powhatan Road in the 3000 block. And again, the existing use is residential and the proposed uses are light industrial district, and it is approximately 2 acres. This is the current map and the proposed zoning map. As you can see, this area is converting a lot to industrial. Novo Nordisk, Grifols, and there's some other industrial properties in this area. The property, as you can see on an aerial photo, and I don't have a pointer, but there actually are 2 residential houses included in this rezoning. So, and then in the area in the back, if you zoom in or if you happen to go by the property, you will see that there is some sort of non-residential going on in the back, but it has been that way for a very long time. So again, the rezoning is for those 2 properties, and they do actually include 2 residential houses. So once those become light industrial, that is something that we call a legal non-conforming use. They can still maintain as houses because they always have been houses, but whenever they go to want to redevelop or renovate or anything like that, they may have run into some issues. But again, I would assume in the applicant, if they are present tonight, they will be able to speak about the intent for the property. But again, a rezoning is just a rezoning. So any use in the light industrial district would be allowed to be on this property if it was rezoned. Current zoning map and the proposed zoning map. And as I was speaking of a few minutes ago, this is a street view. There is 2 residential homes, and then down that long path it's a fenced-in type area. It is consistent and compatible according to the land use plan. It is designated as an employment center, which is what most everything on Powhatan Road is being utilized for currently. And those are some of the objectives and strategies that meet Goal LU1 in our Comprehensive Plan 2040. So staff does recommend approval of the rezoning request. However, a conditional zoning may be more appropriate to accommodate for the existing residential uses adjacent to the property. So last week, 160D was adopted. That means conditional zoning is something that is allowed now. But if the board does choose, the rezoning is consistent. I just want to go over this so everybody's clear that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. It is completely everything about it is the same. Employment center, industrial, a lot of your employment center designation is going to be an industrial zone. As you can see, the back part is already somewhat being used for some sort of non-residential. The 2 homes, they are going to be included in the industrial. Wrong way. So that would only leave potentially 1 or just a couple more residential properties. Some of these areas are outdated, so I don't want to speak and say there would be more. There is actually a funeral home that the space to the south is mod space. There's actually a lot of modular trailers on the property. And then to the east, there's a funeral home, and then that big lot is also owned by Mrs. May's funeral home. So there is very little residential left. So I just wanted to point out that it is consistent. And staff does recommend approval, but conditional zoning is also an option, but they do not have to do that. And I'll be happy to take any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you so much. Any questions for staff? Okay, hearing none, we can call upon the applicant.
Good evening, board. Kirk Lane, True Line Surveying, here representing Blacktip Properties. Nathan Evans is the owner of Blacktip Properties, and he is in COVID tracing with his wife as of this weekend, so I'm here on his behalf. So there is a statement he emailed me that he would like for me to read. It said it has no current plans for improvements on that property rezoned. I intend to improve the property and market to potential tenants. I'm getting the property rezoned because I intend to invest capital in improving the properties over the next year or 2. If I put more money into these properties, improve them as residential properties, they will stay residential long-term, and the comprehensive plan is for it to be I-1.
Could I bother you to just talk a little bit more into the microphone?
And it is in the employment center. And let's see, I believe that rezoning my property to I-1 will meet existing demand for commercial tenants who are either already in Clayton and need a location, or who would like to relocate in Clayton. So I'm here to answer any other questions y'all may have that I can answer. I am the land surveyor on the project, so I am familiar with the project.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Are there any questions for the representative of the applicant?
Yes, Kirk Lane. Yes.
Yanni. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are there any public comments on this matter? Hearing none, I will turn it over to the board for their consideration. Are there any comments from the board? I'll I'll make my comment. To me, it looks pretty consistent with the surrounding area, given, you know, the area and what's currently on the property. I don't see any issues with the request. It's from the board. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to either recommend or not recommend 2021-03-RZ to the town council.
Madam Chairman, I move approval.
Board Member Bizzle made a motion, and a second from Board Member Lipscomb. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is 5A 2020-176-SP, Southern Village Vet Clinic Major Site Plan, and we'll now hear from staff.
Bring my glasses this time. I can see it this time. Good evening, Samantha Woolen-Weber, again, Planning Director. And the request tonight is for a major site plan. This rezoning came before the board a couple months ago. They rezoned from I-1 to B3 to highway business. And their request is the construction of a single-story veterinarian clinic on a recently the rezoned property. And right now it is a vacant piece of property. If you've been out to the site or just familiar with the area, it is the area with the wrought iron fence with the brick columns right adjacent to Southern Village. It is along Highway 70 business. And the property size is approximately 1.30 acres. And the stars is where we put the public notice signs. This is technically not a public hearing, but we do post the property so people are aware of what is going on. And we put two on the property, one along Highway 70 and then one along the shopping center entrance to where the stub is to go to this property. This is a site plan. Again, it's a one-story building. They will have a day use area, which is a fenced area on the property for they're not patients, they're dogs, but for them to use throughout the day. And there's also parking access that connects into the Southern Village commercial area. They do meet the parking requirements. And they also, here's their landscape plan. They have met all the requirements of the UDC with the parking, any driveway aisle widths and those types of things. And also they did comply with the thoroughfare overlay district, which is an additional set of requirements for landscaping. All right, and that is the elevations. The elevations do meet the code. It is consistent on all four sides. And it is similar to the area that it surrounds. That is the back and the side and the west. And again, this vet clinic has received TRC certification. The planning board, or the site plan does meet all of the requirements of the code. That's the view from the street. And the consistency and compatibility, the future land use map does identify the site as an employment center. And it describes here what an employment center may be, and it does meet all the requirements of that designation. Again, it is consistent, and the hatched area is the thoroughfare overlay that you're seeing that's laid on top of the property. Staff does recommend approval of this major site plan, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. Any questions for staff? Is the applicant present this evening? Oh, okay. Hearing none, we can call upon the applicant as soon as she's done cleaning the stand.
So you have a nice picture to look at.
Good evening. I am Danielle Berry here on behalf of Blue Frog Construction and Redline Engineering, putting this forth for approval tonight, and just wondering if anybody has any questions about the project. I know we've been here a couple times here the past couple months, so anything you have, just let me know.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
Yes, I have one. We had actually a correspondence to the town that from Jimmy and Jason Cox, who live across the street. Sure. They just want to confirm that that there's no change in you having outdoor kennels on the property.
Currently, the only outdoor use is for the daycare of the patients in those fenced areas. There will be no outdoor cages or kennel runs.
Would someone, if a dog or someone had to stay overnight, that would be the only thing?
If there was a hospitalized patient, they would be staying indoors.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you so much. If you wouldn't mind just sanitizing, appreciate that. Are there any public comments on this matter? Hearing none, I will turn it over to the board for their consideration. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to either approve or not approve 2020-176-SP.
I'd make it appropriate to approve.
And to approve by Board Member Powers. Is there a second?
I second it.
Second by Board Member Bizzle. I think I heard his voice first. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. The last item on the agenda this evening is informal discussion and public comment. Is there anyone who would like to speak at this time?
I'd like to ask Samantha something about, it won't take but a minute. Samantha, I deliver backpack buddies over to their academy every week. And now on Wilson Street, there's parking on Wilson Street because of those houses. And it's because of in my opinion, because of the short driveways in the back. And I've talked to you about that maybe there was going to be some changes made to the code. How long is that going to take us to get that to change? This is one of the counselors told me today, there's a major issue with buses coming through there now, with those parking on there. You know, I would hate to be the third car coming through there at that time. But when will we be able to change the code?
So with the 160D, it was adopted that all garages have to have a 25-foot setback, and actually all front setback in residential district, regardless of a driveway or not, is 25 feet, which should accommodate at least one large vehicle or two smaller vehicles. And I do believe Academy Point was approved with that setback. We'll double check and make sure that was, but I remember that came up, that it was a big discussion during the townhome portion. That was along Oakdale. I know those are set back 20 to 25 feet. Those units are alley loaded, and the hopes was that there would not be parking on Wilson and that they would be alley loaded. So depending on the product type, it also depends on the setback. Some of the products in Academy Point are going to be front loaded and some are alley loaded. So those alley loaded front setbacks are probably going to be different because they don't have garages. But we will look into the parking on Wilson. Actually, we have talked about it before with some internal staff. No parking designations have to be determined by the town council. So we will take that under advisement, and we will look into it and report back next month on what we find.
Thank you, but I was concerned with it for the last 2 weeks. And the day the counselor mentioned to me that he didn't know I was on the planning board, but he mentioned to me that was a major concern of the drivers and everything, buses. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Board Member Bizzle?
Thank you. Just wanted to mention that since our last meeting, planner, I think senior planner, Haley Hogue has left the town, and just want to thank her for her service. She has been a done a great service to this board and to me, myself, just dealing with the town. But going to Ms. Haley, and I just want to acknowledge her service.
We will miss Haley very much.
Thank you for those words. I second that. Any other comments? Hearing none, I can entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Board Member Bizzle and a second by Board Member Lipscomb. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned.